DGTass. Dumb guys talk about smart stuff.
All right, welcome to the podcast. Dumb guys talk about smart stuff. I'm a dumb guy. I'm Barry.
I'm dumb guy too. My name is Heath.
And today we are talking about the Fermi Paradox, Drake's equation, and as a special bonus, I'm throwing in there the Dyson Dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
So, Heath, do you want to tell us what the Fermi Paradox is?
The Fermi Paradox, from my very basic understanding, it just kind of like if there is extraterrestrial life out there, why haven't we seen it yet?
Right. Basically, Fermi, I don't know his first name. He's just some scientist dude.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, who cares about that guy? Science. He was a believer. I believe this is the way it was. He was a believer in alien life. He basically was just like, it's got to be out there because look at how many billions of stars there are, how many billions of planets there are that surround those. And if there were billions of planets and billions of stars there, and if any, millions of those have the makeup of Earth that are in the habitable zone around their sun, can have liquid water, then at least some of those must have developed intelligent life. And so the reason that the paradox came about is, well, if there is all of those scenarios, why haven't we seen them yet?
Yeah.
Where the hell are they?
Yeah, and I think the main idea of that is there's so many stars out there, even if a tiny fraction of them, even like less than the odds would show, had life, we should have seen them.
Right.
And one thing I kind of got out of it is finding one more in the Milky Way galaxy would be huge, because that would say out of all the other galaxies, Earth could be a common existence or a common result of, of what's going on. But with us being here and we haven't confirmed one yet, as far as we know, why?
Well, why?
Why? What's going
on? Do you believe the Fermi Paradox? Like, do you believe that is proof? Because a lot of people use that as an example of proof that there is nothing out there, it's just us, we're the fucking center of the universe, it's humans, and nothing, dead space.
I think it kind of proves how small we are and how little we know so far.
Yeah, right. How itty-bitty we are in this big, giant universe to where it's that easy for the rest of the universe to be trucking along and just zip right by us, not even realize we're here.
And for example, I took an astronomy class a while back, and I remember the class where he got into how big the universe is.
Whoa, hold on a minute. I thought you were dumb. You took a class?
It was community college.
Okay,
so
good. Okay, yeah, you still qualify.
Yeah. But he showed a picture that was hanging on the wall in the class, and he took it down, and he showed it, and he said, look at this. It looks like stars everywhere. And he goes, this is taken by the Hubble telescope. And he goes, look closer. And each thing that looked like a star was a galaxy.
Yeah.
And basically a sky full of galaxy. And he said, if you look up at the sky and you held a grain of sand to the sky, he said that's about the portion of the sky that picture took.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of galaxies in that picture.
It's really mind-bending. It is. It's amazing what's going on out there in space. And to think that we're the only ones is kind of ridiculous. Another thing to think about, how long, and I don't know, but I'm going to throw it out there, how long has intelligent life been around on Earth? I mean, let's just throw a number out there and say 10,000 years. Mm-hmm. Is that fair? 10,000 years?
Intelligent life as far as, we could kind of comprehend
right
where we're at.
Yeah. We could write and stuff, right? Yeah. 10,000 years ago, were we writing on cave walls and shit?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think 10,000 years ago, pyramids were there. Or maybe we were getting close to the time where the pyramids would be there.
That one movie, 10,000 BC, I think there were pyramids in that, and I'm going to kind of go off that to say that's...
We're not historians, so
right.
I'll say you're true. Right.
So let's just say 10,000 years, whatever. The universe is 14 billion years old, right?
Theoretically.
If the universe is 14 billion years old, and we've been around intelligent life's been around on Earth for 10,000 years. And the closest stars are hundreds of light years away. And, you know, that doesn't even account for the ones that are thousands of light years away or millions of light years away, and galaxies that are, you know, even farther away. I mean, it's like it's like you turned on the TV for 1 second, turned it off, and you didn't realize that Seinfeld was a show. Does that mean that Seinfeld didn't exist?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And I really believe that we are just so limited as far as, you know, it's hard for our minds to even wrap around how big the universe is.
Yeah.
You say a number like 1 billion, that just goes over your head. It just seems bigger than you can comprehend. When you talk about, say, like when you compare wealth and you stack $1 bills on top of each other, get $1 billion, like you're up in the atmosphere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing to think about how big our solar system is. I mean, it's freaking huge. And I've seen examples of where they take giant objects, and now my mind is drawing a blank, but they put it as scale next to our solar system, and it just other suns and things like that. Like they'll take a sun out of another constellation, a star out of another constellation, and they'll put it in our solar system, and they'll go, look, if that star was in our solar system where our star is, it would be, you know, all the way out to like Saturn's orbit. So we would have been gobbled up by this star, no problem if we were that close. Like seeing those, just realizing those types of things are out there that are that big, it's mind bending. I mean, just thinking about the other planets in our solar system, like Jupiter, that's the biggest planet in our solar system, and it would freaking, I don't know how many times bigger than Earth it is, but it's a lot.
Well, isn't that the one with the big storm that's always on it?
Yeah.
Like an eye?
Yeah, it's a storm that's been going on since we can remember. That's how big that planet is. That storm is just happening.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing is, maybe, like, that theory kind of takes into account that, like, Earth is a common occurrence. Say you can be mathematically broken down into there's this many stars, potentially having this many planets, potentially having this many that have developed. Maybe Earth is just such in a prime place that even with that many chances, trillions and trillions of chances, it's not likely to happen again.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've heard the things of how we're just a perfect distance from the sun, we're rotating at just the right speed, the moon's just the right distance, there's just the right amount of oxygen, just the right amount of everything, and our life is very fragile.
It is, and that's actually an interesting point that you bring up because, you know, I think about this a lot. It's just, that was perfect for humans, for us. Does that mean that there are not other environments out there in the universe where it's perfect for those beings, and those beings could have evolved into intelligent, you know, creatures? I mean, there's always talk about we're carbon-based, but what about silicon-based? You know, life forms out there. You know, we live in a very small, you know, window of what the possibilities are, and because this is how we live, and this is what was perfect for us, doesn't mean that's not perfect for, you know, that there's not perfection out there elsewhere.
Yes, and I think we're kind of bringing up like how small we are compared to everything, and I thought one of the most interesting things I came across with this paradox thing of why aren't we seeing this extra life? Like, what if it's right in front of us?
Yeah. Right.
What if we're that deer that runs on the road and a car goes by and we have no clue what that is?
Yeah. Yeah, the anthill.
Yeah, anthill.
Next to the freeway that has no idea the freeway's there or could care less. And the cars on the freeway that don't know the answer there and could care less.
Yes, and what if there's people that are free of the bodies that like we have, and they're just floating around in space.
Right.
As a thought.
As a thought. Energy. Yeah.
And we can't see that.
Right. Well, and another thing to talk about, just to go back on your, I mean, what if things were just perfect here on Earth, and it's because of that perfection, because everything just came together, and just so happened that we formed. It's just so hard to believe that could only happen here, especially considering, you know, the formation of the universe. all happen in one great big explosion.
Mm-hmm.
The we're all made of stars,
Mm-hmm.
basically. A star exploded and created, all of the elements.
Mm-hmm.
And we're made up of all of these elements. So these elements are all over the universe. They're everywhere. To think that what we're seeing here on Earth just happened here and nowhere else, I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, unless existence is something else.
Oh.
Say, because the whole thing, I've seen the whole thing of how the Earth looks like from our perspective. We're the center of the universe. And I went to a planetarium in San Francisco, and they talked about that perspective. And they called it kind of like a perspective illusion, to where it looks like all the stars are moving away from us.
Right, yes.
Which would kind of point to like we're the center of the universe. We're where everything came from.
Yeah.
But they said, scientists believe that if you went to another planet, it would look like that there
It would
as
look
well.
the same. Yeah.
So they say it's kind of like a perspective illusion.
Yeah.
But what if we're in a fishbowl? What if we are basically an existence that bigger beings are looking at? Like the Men in Black, the galaxy being in the marble.
Right. Yeah.
And what if that's our existence?
Well, and that kind of lends to the point that maybe we're not physical at all. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is all just a mental reality,
Mm-hmm.
triggers that are happening inside of our brain.
Reduced down to ones and zeros.
Yeah, exactly. That's why math is the universal language.
Mm-hmm.
Math is always the same. You can't interpret it any differently. Numbers are numbers, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, and also, there's also the whole thing we're going to talk about later, but maybe we're in the Matrix.
Maybe we are in the Matrix.
And it's a computer simulation.
A simulation of a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
The aliens looking at our fishbowl, looking at us,
Or people just like us looking in, and then we're each taking turns going in.
Right.
And
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine, say, I've been watching some YouTube videos of people playing around on Oculus, and say that got so advanced that you had no clue when you're in or out.
Right.
And
I
so,
think that'd be pretty awesome, actually.
And so actually all that's going on is two screens right in front of your eyes, but it looks like a whole galaxy.
Right. Yeah. Well, and in our case here, if we are in the Matrix, air quotes, then maybe it's more advanced than just we're wearing a headset. It's to the point where, what if we're just a brain in a jar with a bunch of wires and prods, stuck in there that are firing off, the program to tell our brains what to think and what to do or what to see.
Actually, there's a very interesting line in the Bible in Genesis that says that the sons of, I'm going to misquote this, I know, but it says basically the sons of God were so jealous of men, especially their physical relationships, that they came to earth to experience it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Gods?
Yes, I believe it's like sons of gods or angels is what. So I'm totally misquoting because I'm doing this from memory.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes like, did they enter bodies? What is that implying?
Right. That's almost like we're playing a game of The Sims. Like we were jealous that, the Sims could, go off and live these alternate realities that we can't live, so we play The Sims to do it. Although I've never played The Sims, I'm just
But
assuming that's
say
what
like
it's
if
about.
our true existence is a brain floating in a jar, we might be jealous of having a body.
So we insert ourselves into the
simulation.
simulation. Yeah, interesting. So the Drake's equation is kind of the same thing as the Fermi Paradox.
Yeah.
It's basically the Drake dude, another scientist who...
Another scientist.
Yeah.
Got a name on something.
Yeah. He basically, I think he was working for SETI, and so his whole calculation or his whole equation is all about why haven't we heard them via the radio waves? Why haven't we picked up their radio waves? If there are, if there's so many intelligent, civilizations out there, they must be using radio waves, and we should have picked them up by now if we were going to. But again, it comes down to the point of how much of the sky are we looking at? How much of the universe do we really have access to right now?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's just something we keep coming back to is how small we are, how little we comprehend right now.
Right.
Compared to how big it is. It's like we don't know enough yet to completely rule out anything.
Yeah, and you know what? I just have to say this. Anybody who says that there's no life out there is a fucking moron. Fuck you if you think that. Because that's just stupid.
Yeah, well, also, I could see saying there's no life like us out there.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing of just Earth is in such a perfect place to have our type of bodies.
Yeah.
But there's just so much pointing to there's more.
Well, you know, we can even find that similarity here on Earth. Like, there are humans on the North American continent, and there are humans on the African continent.
Mm-hmm.
We have differences because we grew up in different environments, but there's also similarities. Mm-hmm. You know, so maybe we've got a different shade of skin, but, you know, when you get down to the roots, we're the same. Mm-hmm. And it could be the same on another planet, perhaps, you know, in another galaxy or just in another solar system, to where there's similarities. They, you know, they're made up of, you know, cells like we are, and maybe they breathe oxygen, maybe they get their power, you know, energy from the sun and stuff like that. But, you know, maybe they're blue. Mm-hmm. You know, they're Smurfs or something.
Yeah, and, oh man, I listened to you too much, so I forgot what I was going to talk about next.
Dude, you're dumb, man.
Yeah, it's Oh, another thing is just our perspective. I just believe that it's just, we can't just look at ourselves and then project that on the universe.
Right.
Like other life would be just like us.
Oh, exactly.
And I think another thing is, and here I've remembered, like, is the way we're programmed.
Yes.
We're programmed to be in small family units and to have a small group of friends, family, friends, and have our little world built around this small existence.
Right.
To where people are so wrapped up so wrapped up in changing baby diapers, taking kids to school, their job, you know, getting their groceries. If somebody stops and all of a sudden talks about, what if there's UFOs out there? They go, you're nuts.
Right. Yeah. And actually, that focuses on a point that is made in the simulacra and simulation, mm-hmm. which is that we're basically just copying what we see. Mm-hmm. We see families. We see, you know, mom and dad have 2.5 kids, mm-hmm.
go
go to work 8 hours a day, come home, spend the weekends, doing whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Like, we see that, so we copy it, and so that is our reality.
Yes.
But is that really what reality is?
Yeah.
There's more out there, right?
Yeah, and I think part of that whole going into how we're wired is like we're so into the people around us. Because say, like, we're devastated if a family member dies. But we hear about 3,000 people dying in Jordan. It's hard for us to even care or turn on the news to know about that.
Right, it's beyond us.
Yes, and so for us to think about the whole galaxy, how many, you know, or the whole universe, how many galaxies there are within that, I think it goes over our heads. Yeah. For the most part.
I mean, just when you think about how big our galaxy is, it's huge. Yeah. And, you know, we've seen pictures or pictures of other galaxies. I don't know how they got pictures of our galaxy, because it would be hard to get it from here.
Yeah, we'd have to even look back.
Yeah, but you know, you see, like, the rendition of what our galaxy looks like, and where the galaxy, like a pinwheel, where we've got the little arms coming off, and we're like a little speck on one of those arms.
Yeah. And
there's just like all of this dense galaxy in the middle, mm-hmm. you know, and it's like, even that is just so humongous when you think about it. And how did that even come about?
Yeah.
Like, think on that scale for just 1 second. Because we're just itty-bitty tiny little dots on this Earth, mm-hmm. in this solar system, around this sun, but the galaxy is this big, and it, mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, dude, that's just mind-boggling.
It is. Yeah. It is. I don't think right now our brains are wired to fully comprehend it.
Yeah. It just makes you wonder what's going to happen when we mm-hmm. die. Is that something that we're going to learn?
Are we all of a sudden standing right next to the people that are alive going, how do you not see this?
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, man. Come on. Get to it.
Yeah.
So one more thing I wanted to bring up,
mm-hmm.
Was the Dyson Dilemma.
Okay.
And the Dyson Dilemma falls within the Fermi Paradox and Drake's equation. It's kind of a similar topic. Do you know anything about it?
Doesn't it have to do with like civilization development?
It does, yeah. It has to do with how civilizations get to a point where they have the ability to expand.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the ability to expand, then you will do it as a civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you know what a Dyson sphere is?
Well, I've heard the Dyson vacuum. It doesn't have a sphere in it.
There is that Dyson with the ball, but that's not what I'm talking about. So the Dyson sphere is basically when a civilization gets to that point where they can utilize their sun's they can absorb all of the energy from their sun by creating this sphere around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like we've created satellites around Earth, these civilizations create basically just, well, you got, what would you call them? Inhabitant thingies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of like what they had on an Interstellar, where people were living on it. They had houses. They had, but it could be just, one habitat for growing trees and maybe producing oxygen. Another one for just growing our vegetation for food. Another one would be, a factory or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just enough of those that they surround the entire sun, absorbing the sun's energy 100%, a limitless amount of energy. And so the Dyson Dilemma says that civilization, if there are intelligent civilizations out there, and they have developed over billions of years, that they will have decided to branch out and expand, not only because they want to, but because they have to survive, and that if they did that, they would be creating these Dyson spheres, which would ultimately block out an entire sun because it would be absorbing all of the energy directly from it. And that if that was happening over billions of years, it would basically black out the sky. And we wouldn't see these suns because these Dyson spheres would be absorbing them all.
It's dawning. There's a Star Trek episode of that.
I think there is a Star Trek episode about that. I haven't seen it, but...
it's Next Generation.
Yeah.
I'm remembering it now.
Yeah, where they go and they visit... they find one that's been abandoned.
Yeah, it's been abandoned, and I think starships are crashing into it because they don't see it until they run into it.
Right, because it's black, right?
And it's the one where Scotty from the old thing appears because his ship has crashed into it.
Oh, Scotty comes back in the Next Generation? Oh, I didn't know that.
He basically froze himself because he crashed his ship.
Oh, so he was cryogenically frozen or whatever, so he can come back.
So I'm familiar with the Dyson thing to that extent. That's how I started.
You know what? If Star Trek is your source of science, then that's acceptable for me. That's enough.
Good enough.
It's good enough. That and Star Wars,
Yeah, but Star Wars, you gotta just theorize it's far away.
It is really far away.
It
yeah.
is.
Actually, I think we've already determined this, that Star Wars is real and Star Trek is fake.
Yeah, 'cause Star Trek is fictional about what will happen to us maybe in the future. Star Wars happened a long time ago, far away.
Yep, and we're just reading about it. We're seeing it now in the movies.
We just got the transmission.
Yeah, exactly. From far, far away.
Yes.
So anyways, I wanted to bring up the Dyson Dilemma because it goes along with those two other theories of trying to explain why life doesn't exist. Because if life did exist, these things would happen. But I think those are really kind of ridiculous scenarios.
They are, but I've heard too that maybe it's not a common thing for someone to say maybe in our future it's not, our future isn't branching out, it's going inward. Right. And so that would make sense of why we're not hearing from anyone else. Yeah. Because they're all going inward instead of branching out.
Well, the Dyson Dilemma had there was 5 criteria that had to happen for that scenario to be realistic. One was that any intelligent society or civilization eventually will have the desire or need to expand. 2, there would not basically is that light speed or interdimensional interdimensional travel is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise they would just go to alternate parallel universes where they have, like us on Earth here.
Mm-hmm.
If Earth suddenly got so populated that not another person could be here, but
mm-hmm.
interdimensional travel was possible, we could just go boop to another reality where there's another
mm-hmm.
identical Earth that we could just start populating.
Yeah.
And so that was one. And you know what? There's 3 others, but I don't remember what they were. But they went along those same lines. They all have assumptions, though.
Mm-hmm.
You have to assume these 5 things for this to be true to prove that this other thing is not real.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've seen the movie Contact.
Yeah.
And it talks about SETI, right? I think that's what she's supposed to be in that movie.
I think so.
And they're just about sending radio waves out.
Yeah.
And listening for radio waves.
Right.
And we did have that instance of, say, the WOW signal, right?
Yes.
Where they picked up a little fluctuation in the radio waves.
Yeah.
But the theory is like that technology isn't that advanced.
Yeah.
But if there's all these other civilizations, why don't we hear their radio waves?
Right. Well, and that's a very good point because, radio. Humans invented radio or started understanding radio waves, like 100 years ago, maybe 200 years ago.
Because, I mean, the radio shows where everybody sat around like as a TV like in the 30s.
Yeah.
And before that.
Right. I mean, so we're talking a couple of 100 years. So our technology, that's only a couple of 100 years old, we're expecting to use that to pick up that same technology from perhaps intelligent beings who've been around for billions of years building on technology. Come on, I mean, even if we're picking up these waves from a billion years ago, I don't even know, how fast do radio waves travel?
I don't know, but the theory with that is that those other advanced ones would have been at that stage at some point.
Exactly.
And sent out those radio waves.
Yeah, and be using the same technology as us. I mean, here's another thought. What if they were? Okay, let's say, a million light years away, there was a civilization. And that civilization 2 million years ago was utilizing radio waves, right? But after a million years, moved away from that technology. Okay? So if by the time it got to us, we weren't using that technology to pick it up. So it passed us, it's gone now. So, maybe it crossed our paths, but we weren't ready for it. Or maybe it'll be hitting us, a million years from now.
Yeah.
But to throw out a net and not catch a butterfly doesn't mean there ain't butterflies out there.
Yeah, and that's I think what we just keep coming back to is just we just don't know that much.
We don't. I think the rest of the people need to realize how dumb they are.
Oh yeah.
I think we've caught on to it. Because
I even think these theories about age are based on so many variables. Because to throw out there, well, the star's billions of years older than Earth, they don't 100% know that.
Right.
And so even that equation has so many variables that it's not trustworthy to me.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've brought this up before because your community college stint about how they determine what stars are made of, and they're looking at the color spectrum of light.
Yeah, they determine how hot they are.
How hot they are, yeah. But what happened to that ray of light on its way to us?
Yes. But our textbook just says this star is this hot.
Yeah.
And the only reason we find out that is because we asked how they know, and the professor explained that. But we're just given this fact that the stars are this hot.
Yeah.
And I think they just kind of think we'll accept it without realizing it's based on this variable and this variable, this equation, and they reach this conclusion that, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, there's so many things along the way that could be wrong.
If any step of the way they find out that one of their criteria was wrong, they have to revamp the whole thing.
I mean, even if they find out, say, like, because some of it's based on, say, like, fire burns at a certain temperature to be blue, but what if you leave our atmosphere? What if it's completely different?
Yeah.
I mean, it's different on the top of Mount Everest than sea level.
Right, yeah.
We're talking millions of light years away.
Yeah.
How is there not even more variables to that?
Now, I think they do tests, and when they do these tests, they do them in, like, vacuums so that there's no other, there's no variables, basically. But you're right. That's definitely a possibility. But the reason that I like science is because science basically says that there's a scientific method. You have a theory, you test the theory, you prove the theory, you repeat the theory. And if you can do that, then you at least have some kind of trust in what's happening, which is why I'm on the other side of I'm with science, not religion, because religion's not like that at all. Religion is just this is what someone told me, so this is what it is.
Yeah, but I think you've got the eyewitness principle, to where that person that saw it doesn't have to be that smart.
Right.
So all he has to do is repeat what he saw.
Yeah, right. That's a possibility too. Are you downing on science?
No, but I'm saying, like, you put these theories together with all these variables. There's room for error.
Right.
And I think if you look back to the different theories scientists have had in the past, I mean, we haven't even say like not that long ago, doctors didn't know about germs.
Right. Yeah.
And like we've come to that conclusion since then. And I think we're at another spot here to where we're sitting there acting like we know all this. And I'm using medical right now as an example. All this about the human body, but we can't cure a common cold.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think we're at a point where we have the answers yet. It's obviously we keep learning and learning and learning, and coming with this paradox, we keep saying we're so small, we know so little.
Yeah.
We're developing, and we could find something out there that throws everything we know on its ear someday.
I think it could.
We could find another thing like when humans basically figured out the Earth wasn't flat. We could find out another type of something like that out there again.
Yeah, I agree. I think it all comes down to the fact that you could throw out all the equations, you could throw out all the paradoxes you want to, but it really comes down to the fact that we really we're looking at too small of a sample size in too short of a time period to really understand anything when it comes to the scale of the universe.
Yeah. Well, and also you can look at what would it take to rule out life everywhere.
Right.
And I think it would take us being on every planet at the same time.
Right.
To rule it out. And seeing the whole spectrum, seeing everything. I mean, I'd say even knowing what happens after we die and all that stuff, you need to know.
Yeah.
To completely rule out other life.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Sounds like a good podcast.
It does. We've covered a few things.
And we've proved once and for all that we're not that smart.
Yes.
All right. Follow us on Twitter, DGTassPodcast.
Podcast. Dumb Guys Talk About Smart Stuff, and subscribe on YouTube.
All right. That's a podcast.